Thank you. Thank you, David. As David said, my name's Rob Ward and I head up the education and employment teams at CBI. For those of you who don't know, CBI provides a voice for British business, so we speak on behalf of around 190,000 businesses of all sizes, in every sector, and from every part of the UK. And for business, actually, there's little that's more important than skills, both from an individual firm perspective, but also in terms of our long-term economic prospects. And for us, this should mean that for the new government, a key priority of the current Parliament must be reform of that broader skills system to ensure that we have a pipeline of talent to support jobs and growth, to drive innovation and productivity, and to deliver prosperity. And I think in particular, that means a skills system that's much better aligned to the needs of the labour market and the wider economy. Because we can see that the economy is changing. So we see the economy rebalancing towards investment and exports. We see it reshaping around high value, high skilled activities. And that means that we know that both now and going forward, industry will increasingly need access to higher level skills. In fact, I think it's been predicted that by 2020, more than half of all employment will be in higher level skills. And nowhere is this clearer than in digital. As Charles touched on, we have a world-class digital economy here in the UK. The sector contributes around £70 billion a year to the economy. We know that British consumers are amongst the most digital savvy in Europe, if not in the world, and are also really prolific online shoppers. We have one of the biggest e-commerce markets in Europe, in the UK. And I think also, according to research I saw published just this week, London is now officially the tech capital of Europe. So there's a lot to be positive about, but there are some real challenges ahead. Because for the sector to continue to grow, I think we need two things. One, we need good quality digital infrastructure. And secondly, we need a highly skilled workforce. In terms of the former, the CBI run regular infrastructure surveys, and recent surveys show us that now around 8 in 10 businesses believe that the UK digital infrastructure matches or exceeds that in other countries. So whilst there's clearly more to do, things are clearly moving in the right direction. But I think in terms of skills, the situation is very different. Now businesses in many, if not all sectors, struggle to find recruits with the right skills. One of our surveys shows that over half of all employers struggle to recruit skills employees with high-level skills. But I think that's particularly true in those high-value sectors that are really critical to the economy, like manufacturing, engineering, science, and of course digital. I think Charles set out some of the challenges that the sector faces in terms of recruitment. We see that employers in the digital sector already struggle to fill around 1 in 5 vacancies due to skill shortages, and with predictions that in the UK over the next 5 years we'll need another 1.5 million digital professionals. I think the scale of the challenge becomes quite clear. But of course it's not just in the digital sector where the lack of digital skills is a concern, because if we look at digital skills more broadly across all sectors, one of our recent surveys shows that around 2/3 of all employers are concerned about the level of IT skills within their current workforce. Now this isn't just a UK problem, it's a problem that exists across Europe. But if you want the UK to remain a world-class digital economy, we can't afford to be complacent. I think the Bank of England already cite skills gaps as a potential brake on economic growth. If that's true for the economy more broadly, it must be doubly true when it comes to digital. And the risk that those digital skills gaps will act as a brake on the growth of the digital economy. So I think the scale of the challenge is clear. David mentioned up front that the roundtables following the sort of plenary session are designed to come up with some solutions. So let me put some on the table for you. Last year, the CBI published a report called Tomorrow's Growth, which sets out some of the reforms that we would like to see to deliver a world-class skills system in the UK. And perhaps I can pull out just a couple of those that I think might be relevant to the conversation this afternoon. Firstly, we need real apprenticeship reform. So apprenticeships have come up already in the conversations today, but we know that in the UK, apprenticeships and other earn while you learn routes have long been undersold, long been seen as second class, for someone else's kids, not your own. That really needs to change, but it will only change if apprenticeships are seen both by potential apprentices and by employers as having real currency in the labour market. So that means we need to make the process of taking on an apprentice simpler, and it means that we need to put employers squarely in control of the design and delivery, the content and assessment of apprenticeships to ensure that they have real currency. And alongside that, give employers real purchasing power by reforming apprenticeship funding to ensure that employers take real ownership of those apprenticeship programs. Now we know that the government's reforms that are underway are intended to achieve this, and I think the digital sector have led the way in piloting the new approach through Trailblazers, but we need to make sure that the government deliver on their promises and really make sure that employers are in the driving seat. So I think that'd be a challenge for ministers and civil servants to relinquish some of those controls, but if they don't, I'm not sure the reforms will work. And we also need to make sure that there's a clear line of sight between apprenticeships and the needs of the economy, and by that I mean, in short, we need more higher apprenticeships. So again, I think hats off to the digital sector with the offer of new degree-level apprenticeships, but we need to make sure that the reforms underway focus on quality and not simply quantity. But secondly, we also need to open up more routes to higher skills. So I think often the debate on skills seems to revolve around apprenticeships or that traditional 3-year university degree route. And whilst both have an important role to play, there are many other routes to skills that need to be signposted and supported if we're to meet that skills challenge. So that means we need more distance learning, it means we need more flexible forms of provision, such as maybe 2-year degree programs. It means we need more business, FE, HE collaboration to meet the skills needs of particular industries or particular employers. And in particular, it means we need to boost part-time study, because I'm sure you know that the numbers studying part-time have fallen off a cliff in recent years, and that's hit adult learners particularly hard. Because again, when we talk about skills, we often only focus on the young. But the reality must be that retraining and upskilling adult workers is equally critical, both from an individual perspective and from a business perspective. From an individual perspective, we know that the job for life is long gone. I think it went in the 80s. I'm on my 3rd career. I'll keep looking till I find what I'm good at. But the reality of longer and multiple careers over a lifetime means that older workers will have to reskill and upskill as technologies and the world of work changes. And of course, from a business perspective, we know that older workers are a great source of talent and expertise. I think one tactical way that we can promote part-time study is by removing some of those financial barriers to part-time study, the so-called ELQ bar. Certainly within CBI, we've called on government to reform those ELQ rules and raise the bar that inhibits part-time study. Let's see what's in the Chancellor's emergency budget next month. And I guess a final area to focus on, again, that was touched on by Lord Lucas, is careers, because at the end of the day, we need to get better at infusing and exciting people, particularly women, about careers in digital. The reality is there's a huge mismatch in the labour market, a mismatch between supply and demand, between perception and reality, between the jobs that young people are prepared for and the jobs that actually exist. And that's why I think improving the quality of careers provision in schools and colleges is more important than ever before. Current provision simply isn't up to the mark. We can discuss the reasons why, but the reality is that in too many cases, careers advice fails to inform or inspire young people. It's not grounded in the realities of the labour market, either nationally or locally, and it doesn't provide adequate information on alternative routes like vocational routes for young people. And from within the CBI, we don't really believe that the career system will ever deliver until we put employers, as well as young people themselves, at the very heart of the system. Now, just to be clear, it's certainly not the job of business to give independent, impartial careers advice, but business does have a key role to play. I mean, who better than business to inform young people about the world of work? You know, who better to help them understand the value that employers really do place on vocational routes and apprenticeships? Who better to inspire, and who better to help young people manage that often difficult transition from education to employment? Now, yes, that poses a challenge to business, but one that I think business is up for. And again, it's a challenge that we've seen the digital sector rise to, because not only is the sector providing huge support to schools and young people on delivery of the new computing curriculum to build young people's skills, but it's also coming together around a range of initiatives such as the Make It Digital campaign, to inspire that next generation of computer scientists, app designers and tech entrepreneurs. So in conclusion, we know we face a real challenge in delivering that pipeline of talent, digital talent, but it's essential that we do. In the short term, I think there's actions we can take through apprenticeships and through retraining adult workers to plug some of those skills gaps. But in the longer term, I think it calls for more systemic reform of both the skills and the school systems so that we have an outcome that is more directly aligned to the demands of the labour market and more responsive to the needs of employers. Now, yes, that means that all of us need to step up. Schools, colleges, skills providers, businesses, politicians. It certainly means business stepping up, but as I've said, I believe that's a challenge that business is up for. Thank you.